phone's buzzing. Who would have guessed? I think I just did a better job at actually getting most of this mat on here. Is that true? Gosh, I hope so. Alright. Let's see. It's mirrored onto the platform. I am live. People can hear me. It seems like I've done a decent job today, as opposed to some other days where I do a little bit less decent of a job at being prepared. just a little bit, worse at being ready when I'm supposed to be ready. But look at me, I did it. Hehehe. Spread out that cloth. Ooh. Hi, sign. Welcome in. I need to let people know in the Discord. Hey, Tom, can you move your butt? Can you scoochie over there? He's like, I don't think so. Tom, you are not part of this. Or are you? Well, I guess we have a cat hovering over the readings for at least the start of the day. That's reasonable and inevitable. Cats just be like that. Sign asks, which one of your projects is your favorite to use for readings for yourself? I so incredibly avoid doing readings for myself. Whenever I do, I feel like it calls me out in exactly the way I already knew it would, because I already knew what I needed to be doing. I think very rarely do dice in particular like call me out. Frankly, I really love my dice. I made them, so they're very much like a system that fits my needs as a diviner really well, right? So typically, if I do a reading for myself, it's because I'm just doing a casting of the dice, and when I start reading them, I realize that it's fully about me. Yes, Tom, are you gonna roll some dice? He rolled the cameo in spirit here, over near Winter, near Wheel. He's coming to terms with the endings of things. If he understands mortality, that's a. I'm looking at his face right now, and I don't think he understands anything. I think he's kind of a little dummy butt. Yeah, aren't you, bud? Aren't ya? You're just kind of a little dummy butt, and that's okay. Some of us have to be dummy butts so the other people can be smart. The cat has always blessed the reading. You know, that is half of the job of a cat, I think. Be present and ready to be a sweet baby boy. So, welcome to a Monday. On Mondays and Fridays, I am doing a live stream both in the morning and in the evening. I'm happy to do dice readings for anyone who shows up to the streams. I'm also happy to just answer questions about myself, the project, Publishing Goblin, any other projects that we happen to be doing. I do have here my my very obvious, incredible stand-in for the Hot Housewives Tarot. So if anyone wants a Hot Housewives Tarot reading, I'm happy to talk about that project a little bit. I've got this incredible deck here. If you want a maybe more exciting reading that better represents another deck or divination tool that I'm releasing, I have the Misery Tarot here. And this is an early print of the Misery Tarot. and it is indeed all of the cards. So it's all ready to go. So if people have questions for that or about that project, I'm super happy to talk about it. Um, I'm also, of course, happy to talk about my sweet orange baby boy who is here to join us today for the readings. This is Tom Bombadil, who is just a perfect, precious man, except for all the screaming and the pooping and, you know, normal cat things. What do you think, Tom? Robinks. Yay! It's so fun to see repeats and new people. Yeah, I'd be super happy to talk about the Hot Housewives Tarot. Someone's trying to eat my glasses. Someone's being a troublemaker for the stream. The Hot Housewives Tarot is does not look like this. I think that's important to note, right? The Hot Housewives Tarot looks a lot better than this guy here. And you can actually see all kinds of stuff about it on the campaign page if you head on down to the other tools section of the campaign page. You can see a lot of neat stuff going on with that. The Hot Housewives Tarot is a really awesome deck that came out of the Alleyman's Tarot. For people who are unfamiliar, it's another tarot project I did in 2021. And in that deck, it was made up of cards from other decks. So I came up with some original cards that were from unreleased decks. And one of them was the Queen of Bombs, which people really, really loved. And the Queen of Bombs was a pink card with pink foil detail. And I'm sure I could just put it in here, right? Yeah, that'd be easy to do. If I remember where it may be. Oh, yeah. Queen of Bombs, please. So this was... Okay, obviously that's incredibly huge. One of these days I'll learn how to get something nice and ready looking before I plop it in. So this was the Queen of Bombs. The Queen of Bombs was hot pink foil. All of those like pink flat elements right there were hot pink foil. Super duper delightful card. I had a great time with it. And people really liked it. And it was one of two cards that I made for the Alleyman's Tarot that ended up becoming its own deck. Now, the actual cards that we have in the project are quite a bit different. They have changed in many ways. So the Hot Housewives Tarot now is being done by Amy Smith, who is a fantastic artist and designer who has been doing the collage work for the deck. So like this is the 7 of baseball. The Hot Housewives Tarot has a fairly standard major arcana. It's just renamed. And the concept behind the deck is that what we're looking at is duplicate, please. Let's see. I can totally do this. I'm really, really smart. I know things, right? Gosh, somebody help me. How do I actually do things? I was trying to find another card. Ooh, I could just like put up this for a moment. Check out the 3 other suits. So the major arcana is standard, and then the suits are bombs, future, pies, and baseball. They loosely fit some standard tarot things, but they have a different numbering system. It's still 1 through 10, but those cards are different in meaning. It is like 50s Americana. The concept behind it is that it's a 50s nuclear town. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, what does that mean? So during the 50s, there were a few different towns, and there was one in particular that I read quite a bit about in a book, where we were making like nuclear bombs. Basically, we were doing everything we had to do to make the chemicals and elements that we needed to make the bombs, and to support that and the huge factories and the scientists that we were putting into those places. We made entire towns, and I got really, really into this idea of Americana, the nostalgia of the 50s that a lot of people have, but approaching it through the view of these towns. I created a fake town called Centerville. And so the deck really is focused on that sort of toxicity of what we were doing at the time, the idea of American exceptionalism and hyper nationalism. All that's kind of part of the deck, and the Hot Housewives Tarot is still a tarot deck. It still has standard major arcana, and the suits have changed, but they still fill so much of the same kind of role. The suit of the future is very swordsy. It's about logic and thinking and what is being made for us. I would say the suit of bombs is maybe a little different than a lot of other things. It's a lot about toxicity and radiation, how we like put these things in our life that end up harming us in different ways. But I would say the suit of pies is very close to the suit of pentacles. It's about the material elements of this whole dealio. This whole dealio. So anywho, the Hot Housewives Tarot is still just a tarot deck in so many ways. You can read with it just fine for any kind of reading. I find that it also is very particular about dealing with society. So it's thinking socially in ways that aren't just about you or your near friends. It's also thinking about you and your position in society, how you relate to the society at large, how you may be affected by other people's gossip or propaganda. So I'd say it's maybe a social deck is a lot of the focus of it. It's thinking about you and your position in the world that you're in. So still just a great deck for general readings, but man, I love the Hot Housewives Tarot a lot, and Amy has done such an incredible job. It is hard to express how cool the Hot Housewives Tarot is. So maybe I'll just also just show you the box. This is just going to turn into me talking about other projects, but not forever. If anyone does have a question for an Oracle dice reading, I'm happy to do those at any time. I'm sorry that I'm just yapping about Hot Housewives stuff. Look at that box. It's so fun and neat. And the back has like a blurb about what the deck is, and it's also like diegetic, so it's from the world of Centerville being written about it. The idea is it's a government approved version of a tarot deck that removes all that arcane nonsense and makes it a good American product. The more that we got into working on the deck, the more I realized like how much I really loved exploring that space. It's so weird and different. Okay. That was enough time. One of y'all's got an important question for the dice. I know you do. Or the tarot decks. I'm a little loose. I'm open. I can make change. Now Tom here, being on the mat is really helping us do a reading, I think. Let's do a standard like 4-die reading. So these are the seasons dice. You can tell by their coloration what they are, I hope. The green is spring, the yellow here is summer, the orange is autumn, and the blue is winter. So when I'm going to do some readings, I typically will work with anywhere from 4 to 12, maybe even 14 dice, maybe the most. My best is usually doing around 8 dice. I pick dice from among the selection of other dice based on the reading. So if someone asks me a question, because I'm the designer, it's really easy for me to be like, oh, this might relate to your question this way. This might relate in this way. But a lot of it's going on vibes. And the cool thing about the dice is that even when you include dice that you think don't relate to the question, they can very often help give important insights. So an easy way to read is just starting with the 4 seasons dice for the season set. And we'll pretend the cat isn't here, but cast them down, where they land, how they're connected. These all mean things. And Tom would like to get in on the dice rolling, so he's going to maybe bat a die here or there. So the side of the reading grid that we're on right now is the season side. This is the two-sided cloth that comes with the season set. On the back side here is a past, present, future. And underneath, a little jump scare here. This is the first edition mat underneath. Okay. I really, really love doing just a basic seasons reading on the seasons grid because where the dice end up says a lot about their relevance in the reading. So, for instance, I'd start over here in the general spring quarter. This is mind, and then when you go out here, it's spring. This is the spring die landing on sex. Sex talks sometimes very clearly about the thing it's named after, but it's usually about your physical relationships to other people and maybe some of the physical needs that you need from other people. That could be sex. It could also just be touch. It could be social connection in some way. But you need intimate, not necessarily sexual, but intimate, close connection with another person. When it's out in spring, as opposed to being in the mind, it means that it's something that's a little bit broader and more thematic for what you're thinking about. It might be affecting a lot of people. It might be affecting just like everyone in your life, which is super cool. And because it's the spring die and it's in the spring quarter, it means that it's particularly strong in this case. We're also touching within, which means that even if this is something that's affecting people a lot in your space, it's affecting you very particularly because it is within. It is a personal thing for you. Over here, we have the autumn die, which is the store's face. This is a barrel suggesting that you need to get ready for winter, more or less. You need to gather things to sustain yourself. Good morning, B&W. The barrel, because it's on the autumn die, and we're reading just the seasons, and we're thinking really hard about seasons. This is the autumn quarter. It's actually in the summer quarter up here. And if Tom hadn't actually been here, it would have tumbled further this way. So it's coming early, is what we would say. It's kind of in the improper place. This suggests to me that you might be gathering things to sustain yourself before there's actually any crisis or worry or need to have a storage of sustenance. I do see the summer die is in the summer. We have the fist, which means you usually need to take physical action. This usually is a very, it's not just go do vague physical action. The fist is usually about like rising up to stand up for yourself, maybe fight the power in some way in your life. It means that you're no longer going to just sit back and do nothing. You have to really take life by the scruff or reins, whatever you're doing with your fist. And again, because it's the summer die and it's in the summer quarter, it's particularly strong in this reading. This is telling me that between these two options of staying patient and gathering things for weathering the storm, you need to take action now. That's probably a more pressing and relevant thing to be doing. We have nothing in the autumn quarter. And then on the core, and then going into winter, we have the winter die with the moon face. Spirit is about what is in your heart. It's a lot about what you're feeling. Thank you, Foundation Web Dev. I know who you are. Popping in to say hi and great work. You're the best. No, you're the best. The moon face here is a lot of how I usually end up reading the moon in tarot, where I think about it as there's a lot of pathways ahead of you, but most of them are hallucinatory or illusionary, right? You're going on sort of journey, maybe, probably mental or emotional more than physical, but the most important thing is recognizing that all the paths laid out before you are honestly there. Some of them maybe had good intentions, but when you go there for maybe a job opportunity, for example, it's not actually present. And this is tied to spirit, so we're definitely thinking about like emotional pathways. Compared to sex over here, I'm going to say that this probably hugely relates to each other. You are seeking connection to other people, but there is a warning that not all of the people that are present or available or as options are honest pathways you could go on. So don't wait to gather your emotional energy to survive the winter here, where there's a lot of illusory pathways. It's like you have to take real action. You do have to actually step out into the world and do some of this work. Hello, Entrance Glamour. Kirby Sanders. I'm always interested in readings, but I don't always have good questions for divination tools. Generally, I default to what do I need to hear today? We can definitely do that too. I loved doing a quick load reading of 4 dice, but I also would love to give you the most general reading I can think of. So in the season set, I usually start with the 4 seasons dice for deciding what dice to work with. And then the most basic readings of all time for me are like I throw in the element die, oppression. That was the face. This is the obstacles die, which just says what's kind of in the way. Relations die to see how people might be relating to the problem, and the suits die, which is the suits of tarot, which just helps characterize elements. Tom, I do love you, but you do have to move, sweetie. You can't just be on here. You're covering the whole mat. Yeah, you are. Okay. Can you get up? He's like, I don't know about this, Dad. I don't know about all this. What are you doing, Dad? You can lay over here. Yeah, you can lay over here. You've got plenty of room not on top of the mat. All right, Kirby, let's take a look at your question. And then Robin, thanks for asking a question as well. I'll get to you next. What do you need to hear today? Ooh, we have a lost die already. And the lost die I will put right here just so we can see it. A lost die, because I just said it out loud, is when a die falls off of the reading grid, typically like fully off the table, honestly. And that's something that you do still read. You just recognize it as something that's coming back at a later time. It's not pertinent to the immediate question, but it will come around. Someone's probably going to bat one of these dice, so luckily we have a live stream that I could recheck to see if any dice do move. In the core of your reading, we have the relations die. This face here is rejection. It means that you or either you have been rejected or you're the one doing rejection of another person. Tied right here to the cup from the suits die, the cup is facing downward, which tells me it's pouring out. It looks like there was an emotional connection with someone that has been, if not severed, at least temporarily undone. And as a result, the emotional fulfillment that was gained from that relationship with another person is now gone, or at the very least on the way out. At the top of the core, and I'm just going to mention it because it's in here a little bit. This is metal on the elements die. Metal is an element that is super capable. It's very strong, it's very durable, but it's very inflexible. This shape here is like a sickle because typically we use metal to make tools, and tools have very particular purposes. Metal can either be a sign that you're really, really good and efficient at what you're doing, or it can be a warning that you're too inflexible and you're trying to use the wrong tool for a situation. We will see probably which one is which as we go. Over here, we have the winter die. This is the face of reflection. This means that you kind of need to take time to think about what you're going through and really self-reflect on like what your goals are. Because this is in mind, we're also talking about what you're thinking rather than maybe what you're feeling. Spirit is like your heart and raw emotion. Mind is more of your logic center. So we're looking at what you should maybe be thinking about. And I would say there's a lot of self-reflection probably to be done here. And I think it's probably pretty tied to this. The metal face of the elements die is bridging between the mind and body. Mind is very internal, body is external. This is what you are doing out into the world. Because we have metal, I'm assuming that there is some amount of activity going on here that you are partaking in that is fairly rigid and focused. I do see over here a seed. This is the spring die, and the seed face here usually talks about new opportunities or new things blooming and blossoming. I will warn, of course, that the scythe is something that is good for harvesting. If this is a new seed, it looks like the tool maybe that you have at hand and that you've been relying on how to get through your life is maybe not best suited for this next step that's becoming available to you. If you are looking at things as being this is a very hammer and nail situation. If you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. When you have a scythe, everything looks harvestable. But there's a new seed. You're supposed to cultivate it. You're supposed to grow it. So I would be very, very careful about any new opportunities that you have coming up. If you approach it in the same way that you've approached things in the past, it looks like that could lead to a situation like this where you are being turned away from things that you thought were going to be fulfilling for you because of your approaches. Over here in autumn, in the material, this is more like body is how you are physically affecting the world. Material is more things coming in to affect you. So it deals a lot more with other people and physical objects. We here have the summer face. This is the summer die. This is the like gains face or the exchange face. It usually means that you're working for money, or that there's some kind of transaction being done. I also have change, but this was the lost die. This was the one that left. While it did get lost in autumn, it's the autumn die and the autumn quarter. It's fairly strong. It's not here yet, which is telling me that the lesson to be learned here may not be learned for a little bit. There is change that's meant to happen, but it's just not quite here. Especially because this is an autumn space, which is usually dealing with other people and other objects affecting you. I'm wondering if it's more of not you changing, but a lot more of the world around you changing and your circumstances changing to a point where maybe you would have an easier time using the way that you've interacted with other people so far to interact with them positively. Over here, we do have the obstacle die, touching within and in spirit. Spirit, again, is how you feel about things. This face of the obstacle die is emergence. Emergence is about being faced with the reality of how either you or another person is, and other people having to deal with how that changes their perspective of you and how it changes who you are to them. Based on what I'm seeing here, it looks like maybe some of the ways that you're approaching your relationships with other people are a little rigid, and you're not doing a very good job at being either accommodating or flexible with how things change in relationships. And there is something important to see here. I see emergence as being here about you recognizing other people better for who they are and no longer thinking about them solely in the way that you have been. I think that there's a possibility you may be categorizing people in your brain into boxes that don't really fit them. And that does cause complications for your relationships, and it does potentially lead people to push away. I would say an alternative reading here might be the other way around, where there's a lot of self-reflection for you to do and things about yourself to recognize and realize so that you can be more true to your authentic self. I think that this tool may be a rigid idea of who you are supposed to be. And when you do face up and recognize yourself for who you really are, whatever that may be, whether that's gender things, whether that's ideology things, whether that's you realize that what you've been doing as a career isn't really what you want to be doing. We do have the transactions face over here, which tells me that there's something tied here to maybe your job or your career that is related. But I'm not seeing anything that really specifies anything important about it other than there is a big change that comes. So something to think about. Are there things about yourself that you aren't recognizing or being caring about? Are there things about yourself you've been dismissive of because it doesn't fit into the use of this tool? Or is this something you need to recognize about other people? I would really reflect on whatever this relationship is. Who is maybe doing rejection at this moment, and recognize that maybe that person's being misunderstood or that person's not being respected for who they are. And then I'd go from there. Rabinks, I would love to have a Hot Housewives reading about how to best get along with my roommate when we don't have a lot in common. Oh my gosh. Yeah, let's do that. I hope you're still here. I hope that you were, patient with my slowness here. It's a nice slow Monday morning, We all are just spending a little bit of time enjoying the day. I mean, there's a cat right here who's having a great time today. He's just laying, doing nothing, napping. Professional napper. Would you bide? I appreciate that. That's very sweet. I will say that the Hot Housewives Tarot is still in many ways new in my hands. Um, I think it would help a lot if I had an actual print of the deck because I really like intuitive readings. So having blank white cards I just wrote on is maybe not the most exciting way to approach the deck, but we'll do our best. Because I have a lovely cat here, I will probably avoid doing a huge spread, but I think a 5-card spread is something I've been really enjoying doing with this deck. So we start with the 8 of Bombs in reverse, the 0 of Pie, 5 of Baseball, the 12 of Bombs, and the 12 of Future. So a couple things about the Hot Housewives Tarot that I didn't mention when I was talking about it earlier. It does have zeros in the deck. Zeros tend to be kind of an overall reaching understanding of what that suit is about. I think of it as like the home of that suit. So like the 0 of Pie, for example, is the green lawn, and it is looking at the lawn in front of people's houses as the ultimate idea behind what the suit of pies is about. Which is to say that the suit of pies is largely focused on, sorry, I'm plugging in my phone, who is this camera. The suit of pies tends to be about physical and material things that we have that relate to our standing in society. So that's why there's a 0, and then there's 12s here because there is a court in the Hot Housewives Tarot. So instead of an 11, 12, 13, 14, we have daughter, son, mother, father, because it's a family instead of a court. But then we also have 11, 12, 13, 14 as hidden cards, and these are focused on what things are forgotten about in the whole 50s Americana exceptionalism ideology, right? So let's take a look. We're starting with the 8 of Bombs. This is radiation. This is in reverse. Usually radiation as a card is telling me that it and maybe the things around it are really poisoned by something that has really gone wrong. In reverse, we're looking a little more at like just how concerning the thing might be. In this case, I would probably read it as there was a misunderstanding between you and your roommate, perhaps, that really poisoned the well, so to speak, and made you perhaps both think that there isn't a lot of room between the two of you. Thank you. The hidden cards are a really cool concept. I was very proud of it when I came up with it. I was like, I know a lot of people want representation on this deck, but that's not what this deck is about. This deck is about basically like white nationalism and supremacy. So when we began looking at like how we fit the things that are marginalized and hidden, I was like, what if they're literally hidden behind the white nuclear family? So I was pretty excited. The 0 of Pie, again, this is the green lawn. This is suggesting to me that a lot of the problems maybe started out connected to the radiation card here with like how you and your roommate maybe present yourselves into the space and how each of you view maybe the material reality of your lives and your apartment or home situation, whichever it is, maybe how you think about what they are. Thanks, Curvy. I love doing readings. I'm glad that you were here for that. So thinking about what that could mean for the green lawn is like one of you might think, I really need to decorate this place to feel like this is a home. The other one's like, I really don't like your idea of decoration. It really looks, maybe bad to me. It makes it feel like not home. And especially when you are very conflicting personalities, it can be difficult to look at your home space and think about it as home when there's another person there who's just living a completely different life from you. The 5 of Baseball is propaganda. Baseball as a suit deals with play. It focuses on how play and joy maybe gets co-opted by our goals. In this case, 5 of baseball is focused on propaganda, and maybe how we use play as propaganda. We teach people lessons through the ideas of play. The 5 of baseball in reverse, I would say, is like a pretty stark warning that how people are acting in the situation, in your living situation, um, could deeply be problematic, right? It's like you might look at this person and they might do things that they think is just whatever, but you're like, actually, like, maybe that's super racist or something. And they're like, no, it's not. It's not that serious. Or maybe it's vice versa. Maybe they're offended by some of the things that you say and do because you don't realize what some of the undercurrents might be. The 12 of bombs usually deal with toxicity or big problems in many different ways. The gun is outright saying like there is like the Chekhov's gun is in place. Uh, there might be some things some of you, either of you, are doing to feel protected that is just making the other person feel uncomfortable. Um, I can think of so many ways that that could unfold. Like one person locks the door every time the other person leaves just because they want to know that they're safe in their home, but then the other person comes home and they don't have their keys and they're like, how do I get in? um, I'm just seeing a lot of potential issues where like who you are might just not mesh well. 12 of future, the pursuit of happiness in reverse. I think that the easy advice here, right, is having an honest conversation about what it is each of you wants out of this living situation and trying to come to an understanding about like, I don't like it when you play your music incredibly loud in the morning and have a dance party in the kitchen. Uh, but I see that that's something that really brings you a lot of joy. So maybe I can make concessions on some of these things. But if you don't have honest conversations about what bothers one of you or what works for one of you, and say like, I don't really like when you do this thing, however I understand that it brings you a lot of joy and I don't want to stop you from doing it, I just want to see if we can try to focus it on times I'm not in the house, or we can try to limit how loud the music gets, for example. This just is honest conversations about mediating your living space. You might not have a lot in common, but you're still sharing a home space. And there's something really wonderful about spending time with someone who's very different from you, where you can actually exchange and share understandings about what's going on in each other's lives. Um, Sometimes asking advice from someone who is so incredibly different from you about what's going on in your life is just a good way to open up and do like cultural exchange between your two lives. So yeah, I'm seeing a number of issues there that could be like just a complete mismatch of what you each want out of a living situation. However, your question wasn't like this person's horrible and I hate them. Your question was just like we don't have a lot in common. How do I best get along with this person? It seems like there's just some easy conversations you could have to be like, hey, I noticed that you do this thing. I don't really understand it. Can you like talk to me a little bit about it? Why do you want to hang this thing on the wall? What does it mean to you? And there's just some learning that can afford to be done here, I think. These are my very big opinions about other people's living situations. Ooh. Let's see what all fun dice options there are. I'm grabbing random dice here. I'm really getting into this idea of grabbing random dice between the two dice sets now and rolling them and just seeing what happens. As you can tell, some of these dice have stickers on them. And the stickers are just stand-ins for the Keykeeper set of dice because I don't have them. They, generally speaking, don't exist, with the exception of the 3 dice that were in the Alleyway Oracles that are part of the Keykeeper set. I do have those. But, yeah, like, these are actually the Housewives dice. This is one of the 5 Misery dice. This is one of the 7 Keykeepers. I think that it's fun to just roll random things. I can think of a couple of things, specifically with the space and how it's filled, that we might be able to have. That one actually made a lot of sense. Wonderful. Yeah. Your question didn't say anything about it being terrible, but in the reading, I was like, I can see a lot of spaces here where there's probably hard feelings that are being harbored and not shared because they maybe feel a little petty. Uh, and it's probably better to just put those uh, out there for you both to know and talk about. Because the sooner you can have honest conversations about things that are bugging you in the situation, right? The sooner you can be like, all right, how big of a deal actually is it? And what concessions can I reasonably make that make this a more lovely living situation for the both of us? So let's just roll some random dice. Now, Tom, I noticed that your face is covering one. There's one right here under his cute little orange face. Let me give him scritches so you can see his cute little face. Yeah, that's a handsome, good boy. Yeah, what a good cat. So, in the core of this random reading, for whoever this advice might need to be heard, I see the strong horse is telling me that there's probably a lot of labor to be done. The strong horse is someone who is very, very capable of doing a lot of work. I would say the shadow side, or like at its worst, this die face can mean that you are becoming like a workhorse, which means that other people might be putting stuff onto you. And I am thinking that that is likely part of the reading here, because the next die is the play die from the Hot Housewives tarot set. This is the vacation face. Because it's verging on mind, I'm thinking it's a lot about something that you're thinking about or something you want. Vacation, specifically on this die face, is focused on the idea of getting away from your regular life, especially when it comes to work. Getting away from the expected roles of who you're supposed to be and being able to be free to be yourself. This is tied to tin right here on the alchemist die. Tin is usually talking about how um, tin is a lovely metal on its own, but it's really most useful when it's paired with other metals. And because it's paired here with vacation, it looks like you are a very good worker. You can do a ton of labor. You are becoming kind of the pack horse for everyone else, though. And in order to balance that out and keep you sane, you do need to have the space to go on vacation, whether it's literal or metaphorical. What it really means is that you need to have the space to walk away from the really hard labor, sometimes to have freedom and recuperate. I do see the ghost on the influences die here next to the diamonds. The ghost usually talks about nearby dice or nearby maybe sections of the reading as being haunting the rest of the reading. That means that there's underlying problems. Maybe they can be dealt with, maybe not. But it does look like a big underlying problem for the rest of the reading is diamonds. Uh, Diamonds as a die face on the resources die here is explained on one of the cheat sheet cards I happen to have right here. And I just like showing off the cheat sheet cards because people don't know that they exist. It is color matched to the die, so it has the same color as the resin and the ink, so that's easy to figure out which card you need. It also has all 6 faces on it, and it tells you at the top, this is the resources die. And the new cheat sheet cards also say what guidebook they're in and what page they start on. I'm also going to have a little piece in the corner here that shows you what stone die it looks like. So cheat sheet cards are great. Diamonds are gleaming and pretty. Ornamentation is nice, but not needed. Enjoy the art for what it is. Accept it when it is possible, but remember simplicity and form can give more to function. I would say that in this reading, diamonds are probably like the idea that you have enough money to just afford the pretty glittering things in life. And tied to this workhorse situation and the need for vacation, it's suggesting that you're working a ton, and it might be just because you want the money, you like the lifestyle that you get to live because you have funds. However, this is kind of haunting the situation. You want freedom, you want vacation, you want to use your PTO, for example, but you're not using it because you really like being in work, bringing home the money, and being able to go out for dinner every night. You really like being able to buy the new TV. You like the new outfit. And that's something that's really haunting the issue because you need to step away from your work, but you're kind of obsessed with the space that it gives you. Over here in summer and body, this is how you are physically interacting with the world outside of you. The two means that there is kind of like steps forward from one. Good things are unfolding. We also have hope here. This is the grief die. It usually talks about your journey throughout trauma or suffering or pain or grief, loss, whatever it may be. Hope is the last stage. It's telling me that like you are in a really good position with how you're interacting with the world, generally speaking. Your work, you actually feel pretty good about. You feel like it's going well. You feel like you're getting a lot done. You feel like things are definitely in an upward swing, which tells me that maybe physically you're not worn out, even though you're being a workhorse. You're good with it for now. However, I am seeing some kind of issue here. This is material. This is usually how the world is physically affecting you. It can be how other people are acting. It can be how your job is affecting you. Um, Thanks, Kirby. Have a lovely time at class. This is the attentions die. This deals with how things are being perceived or how things may be hidden. This is the whole. The whole is where things go when you never want anyone to know about them. Mentally, you're like, I would like vacation. This is the pairing I need to keep my mind working while I'm going through all this labor. But you don't want to like go on vacation. You don't really want to leave your work, and you feel like you're doing a really good job. But there's something going on here with other people where it seems like something's being kept from you or hugely hidden. Um, and because it's external, I'm really thinking there's something about you and something you're supposed to know, but you don't. And I think that that's something you kind of know about, and that's why there's some issue going on here. Something doesn't feel right, but people aren't giving you the information you need just yet. Over in spirit, uh, this is identity. This is the redacted die. This is usually about things that are being hidden, um, things that are not being understood or accepted, or they're being intentionally put away. And identity is definitely telling me that maybe these things combined, there's stuff going on with your personal identity. Um, it can deal with marginalized identity, it can deal with race, it can deal with class, it can deal with gender, religion, whatever it may be. There's something that you and your heart are really holding back, and it's definitely related here. Either other people already know about the thing that you think you're keeping a secret or you're holding to yourself. Um, and it looks like because it's in spirit and it's something that's really hidden, it's suggesting to me that you're not probably very happy with what you're doing and how you're hiding it. But maybe other people already know and they're just pretending it's not true or real. And this is just such a problem. This stuff is kind of working. You should go on a vacation. You should step away from your work a little bit because you are working maybe way too hard. However, you can maintain that pace, and it doesn't look like you're going to crash out or anything's going to fail yet. It probably is going to be fine for a while, but emotionally, something's not connecting here, and you do need to figure out if being more open about this is going to be a good thing or a bad thing. If this is something that other people are pretending isn't real because it's going to cause problems, if so, it might be better to face it now. It's cool that you like your job and you like what it affords you. Maybe your lifestyle is really working with this, but I don't think that it's something that's probably worth keeping your heart like separated out for. Uh, but maybe it is for you. Maybe it's worthwhile doing a job that you have to kind of not be yourself at for many years because it supports the rest of your life. That's something you get to decide. But it does look like if this comes out, there will be some kind of issue. And for me, I think I would just rather face that sooner than later. I also love the idea of cheat sheet cards. Um, it's so funny. I did these cheat sheet cards for dice in the Alleyway Oracles because there were three little dice that came in a bag in that project. And I, in my infinite wisdom, was like, how in the world will I share meanings about these dice with people? It's going to be impossible to do. There's not a guidebook for these dice. And I was like, oh, I'll just make little cheat sheet cards. That'll be great. And then when I told people there would be cheat sheets in the third edition dice, I was making like a whole um, page, like page thing that would come with the books that would have a bunch of dice on each side. There was going to be 6 dice on each side. And then I showed it to people and they were like, why aren't you just doing those cards like you did with the Alleyway Oracles? Those are so accessible because when you're learning the dice, you can use the cheat sheets in a couple ways. The number one way is if you have them all, you could just like shuffle them up and then deal out like 6 cheat sheet cards and then just color match to the dice. And those are the dice that you'll then read in your reading. And then you have the other part of these, of course, is that when you grab dice you're going to use, you could just grab the card at the same time. And as you get to it, you can just read with these. If you need a deeper reading, you could pull out the guidebook. But like, these are such a no-brainer. I'm so surprised I didn't do this in the second edition dice sets. But here we are in the third and final version. I'm like, this is the obvious thing to go with. So I'm pretty excited about this. Throwing these out there. You will get these in the base box with your dice set. I'm actually just so in love. Oh. Well, B&W, I love seeing you again. Thank you for joining. Did you have any questions? I know you had a reading, Friday? Maybe last Monday? I don't even know anymore. Or not last Monday. That wouldn't have been possible. We're only 5 days into the project. If you have a question, go ahead and shoot my way. I'm happy to do readings for anybody and everybody who shows up. You never know. Let's see. Yeah, we've got a bunch of lurkers in the stream right now. So if anyone does have questions, hop in the chat and shoot them my way. B&W, yeah, give me a reading. I am excited to do readings. It is my job. Ba, what even is time? Apocalypse Girl, that's a great question. Is that a question for the dice? Do I have to answer what is the concept of time? If the dice give me like a theory on relativity or something, that'd be really cool. I'm noticing that this wire is just really ugly and just kind of hanging in the camera shot. And I'm like, didn't I literally put something over here to try to stop that from happening? And I just must have the camera too far over. Oh well. Oh my gosh. What a handsome boy. This is really what this stream is for. So everyone can appreciate Tom Bombadil and how handsome he is. Such a good, handsome, pretty kitty. Aren't you, bud? Let's go, Apocalypse Girl. Let's figure out what time is. Alright, random dice, go. Well, Tom is covering most of them, but the most important thing we can see here is nails. It's telling me that time is a very particular poking pain. I'm also seeing that externally, time is the stealer of your ability to speak. If you don't do what you need to when you need to, you will lose the opportunity to ever do so because time keeps moving. Underneath my kitty, there's an inevitability to time. Time will always happen. And because of that, I also see the path. Time is every choice you make. That's how you typically advance and think of time. It's how you feel time. Falling moon. The falling moon and the rising sun. Time is the new day. Always approaching. I like how I apparently rolled the wounds things here, and it's just like, time is pain. Time is the loss of chance. Time is the loss of opportunity because of inaction. So there you go. What even is time? Time is the loss that we experience, and time is also our choice. B&W, I'm kind of stumped on what to do with my upcoming birthday. Well, happy upcoming birthday. I'm torn on whether I should stick to the current plans or work out a compromise. Fair enough. Number one, I'm just going to tell you, don't work out a compromise. Birthdays are what birthdays are. And at the very least, they're a day where you can be a little bit selfish about what you'd like and how you'd like to see it come to pass. And I think you should just not compromise. Maybe I'm a little bit selfish, but I think that people are often too accommodating of sometimes other people's wants, even when it's like, it's very silly and it's very surface. Birthdays are what birthdays are, and in my opinion, like, you don't really have to do anything special for a birthday. But if you're going to do something, of all the days in your life to just say, I'm going to do something fun for me, that's your day a year. So, okay. Tom, you're really just blocking these readings, bro. You're a reading blocker. Yeah, you're a reading blocker. But that's okay. You're so handsome, so you've got that going for you. We have nothing in the core and nothing in mind. So it looks like this has very little to do with your decision making. It looks like everything's kind of hinging on other people, probably, or it's all emotion, which is fair. Body is how you're affecting the world. I see cocoon. I see the pentacle. Yeah, maybe I'll do a reading for Tom Bombadil. Yes, Tom Bombadil is his name. And it's because he is a jolly big man and he's orange. And that was my agreement when I went to the shelter. I said that I would either get a black cat and name it Special Agent Dale Cooper, or if I couldn't find the black cat of my dreams, which I wanted so bad, because I'm a little goth baby and I want my black cat, I said if I meet a jolly fat orange cat, I'm naming him Tom Bombadil. And that's what I found, and that's who came home. So how you're affecting the world, B&W. Materially, there is a lot going on here. It seems like you have a lot of stuff tied up in this, maybe even financially. You're spending money to try to make something happen. There's a cocoon here, which is just telling me that, like, you have a plan that you're kind of ready to put out there into the world, and it's just not being allowed to come to fruition, which is pretty frustrating. It's tied right here with the cameo in material, which is telling me that other people are like, there's limited time for a number of things right now, and like we kind of need or want to do this. So it's telling me there's likely just another event kind of coinciding maybe with your birthday, and people aren't willing to do what you want to do because it kind of takes over that time and space. Material is also holding the autumn die, telling me like things end and things begin here. There's probably not actually a huge issue with letting your plans coincide with other plans, but it does kind of look to me like one of the expectations is that like your event stops and then other ones go, and I think that probably isn't sitting super well with you. I'm seeing radio, compass, foxglove, and the scales. Emotionally, this is really frustrating for you. Definitely. You are trying to find direction that stops people from like spreading negative ideas about you in the situation, because you don't want people to think that you're being like a drama queen about it, but it's not really fair. It feels like you're not asking for a ton, but everyone's viewing as asking for a lot. I see the scales here, which tells me that you are thinking pretty heavily about like what is good and what is bad. Don't show your butt on camera, young man. Jeez. Cats just be like that. He thinks this is OnlyFans. Like, gosh. Foxglove is a flower that, like, in small doses is medicinal and large doses is poisonous. You feel like you've struck a really good balance on that. It doesn't look like other people do. So it looks like there isn't a happy middle ground here. And if you compromise, it looks like you're the one who kind of loses. Uh, I will give the fair warning here that there's not a single thing in mind, which is telling me that you are not probably thinking maybe completely rationally and logically about it, which does make me wonder if the scales here next to Foxglove in your spirit is telling me like you feel like you're being fair. But the question is like, are you necessarily being fair? That's a harder question. But it's supposed to be like a day that you want to experience something fun for you. So there's not really a problem with it all being in spirit. Like it should be nice. It should make you feel good. It doesn't have to be logical. But it doesn't look like people are probably going to be very patient with that. I would say if you want everyone else to be happy, then you have to compromise. But if you're like, I just want my thing, then go for it. But it looks like people are going to be frustrated about it, and maybe that just kind of steals some of the joy. So it could be worthwhile looking at what the compromise looks like and deciding if you can still find like the joy and the fun in it for you. And then that could work. And that was a reading with a random assortment of dice. It looks like it was mostly Seasons dice, but I just did grab from the pile of 44 dice. Twin Peaks mention. Yeah, I love Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks is delightful. And I really want a black cat, and I really want to name him Special Agent Dale Cooper. That would bring me endless joy, because then I could call him Dale, I could call him Coop, call him Cooper, I could call him Kale, which is what David Lynch called the actor Kyle MacLachlan, like to his death day. David Lynch always called Kyle Kale. And I remember reading what the story was behind it, but I don't remember it anymore. I think that's beautiful. So I could call my sweet little black cat any kind of name. Special Agent would also just be like a really great name. uh, we'll see. Maybe someday Tom needs a brother or a sister. More likely, it just might be an after Tom Bombadil experience. Maybe one cat's already enough for me. We have two cats in our house, and they don't necessarily get along, so third cat might be asking a lot. Just because I have them here and I can, let's also just do a little Misery Tarot reading, right? I like showing off things. Now, the Hot Housewives Tarot I read earlier, I did shuffle every single which way because there are reversals in the Hot Housewives Tarot, because it's kind of meant to be very similar to a normal tarot. The Misery Tarot is just utterly different, so I don't read reverses with it. Boop. So this is going to be a fun random reading for anyone who's watching and maybe dealing with some stuff. The Misery Tarot really focuses on grief. It focuses on the healing journey through pain, suffering, trauma, grief, loss. And as a result, it kind of has a couple functions. You can read it on its own, which I'm about to do, which I would only really do for people if they are dealing with those kinds of topics right now, or if their question is only about that. The other thing is it can be a tarot companion, where you do a reading with a tarot deck and then you do an overlay reading with the Misery Tarot. So you'd put these to fill in spaces around the other cards and see how trauma or healing or pain might be affecting the reading. So it's a very focused tool. It's got a niche for sure. But the cards in it are definitely inspired by horror and the genre of horror in games and movies and art. But they're not about badness or suffering. They're supposed to be about the journey through and hopefully being an understanding one. So, for example, we have the relapse here at the start. It's the 0 of nails. In the Misery Tarot, there are 7 suits, and they go 0 through 7, and then they have 2 denizens. There's one denizen and one ruler, but those are like beings that live in those houses. The suits are called houses. And yeah, so the zeros are usually like the folly of the suit. It's when the suit goes awry. And nails are supposed to be about rebuilding. It's supposed to be about like having the hope and the tools you need to go towards rebuilding your life after you have gone through difficulty, trauma, loss, grief, whatever it may be. So the relapse is when you are given the nails and the hammer to have hope and plans to rebuild your life, but the relapse is, of course, when it just returns to the misery. You might think that you haven't earned being free of the pain yet, and so you're unwilling to move to the next step. The demons here next to it tell me that there's probably other people or gossip, whisperings from other people that suggest that you don't deserve yet to move on, and that's really tied to what the relapse is. That's when you maybe even thought that you were ready, but then everyone's like, oh really, you're already moving on from that. And you're like, you're right. I can't do that yet. We actually have another zero here, which is the zero of rot. This is the cocoon. This is when you start to isolate yourself from the rest of the world, and you just kind of stay in the misery. You accept that like things aren't good and they're not supposed to be good, and so you're just gonna settle in to the misery nest you've kind of made for yourself, the depression nest. The bladesmith here is the denizen of the suit of blades, and the bladesmith is, I call him the like smith of abuses. It suggests that like there is maybe even a very particular person here who is constantly putting out this space of put downs and abuses, which is stopping you from feeling like you can move forward. The bladesmith is usually like a person, right? So you can recognize who this is, and you can hopefully make change in your life to remove the person from your life or confront them and ask like what do you want out of this? Like what are you gaining from putting this in my life and making me feel like I can't do or I can't move on? And then the last card here is the Seven of Flesh, which is the turned away. The seven is kind of like it's one of two things, right? It's kind of got like at its best, it's when you finally turn away from what flesh is about. And in this deck, flesh is focused on the anger and the bargaining phases of grief. And it's when you finally turn away from it and be like, I'm done with it. At its worst, though, it's when you're being offered the hand to step out of this space and move to the next phase and hopefully grow and change and everything. And you are turning away from it because you maybe think that this is where you're supposed to rest. So this is definitely a reading that's focused on maybe being ready to move on to better spaces, but being surrounded by a failed support structure, people who maybe should be on your side and should be here to support you and defend you and rise you out of the difficulty that you've been facing. But the people around you aren't doing that, and they may be doing it on purpose, so it's likely a good time to step away from these people or to confront them and ask what their goals are. If they can't help you continue forward on whatever path you're on, then maybe there's not the people to be there for you. Sometimes when people are confronted in that way, they realize what they're doing wrong and they will change their ways, and that's awesome. Sometimes they don't, and it's just your sign that it's time for you to move on from them. So that's just a fun and light, right? Fun and super light Misery Tarot reading real quick. I love the Misery Tarot a lot. The art's gorgeous. The deck is done. The guidebook just has to be finished. But it is one of the add-ons on this project. So if you've been here for a bit in this stream already, you saw I read with the Hot Housewives, which right now is just a stand-in deck. I was a little reading with the Misery Tarot. Both those decks are actually kind of being like soft released on this project. So if you get into time there and you're like, ooh, this is fun, I'm curious, they are available on the project. But dice, this is what we're really here for. If anyone has any other questions, I'm happy to do dice reading. I believe it was suggested that I should do a reading by Robbins about Tom Bombadil, my sweet kitty, why he wants the dice. So, in true chaos fashion, learned from my cat, I will just grab some random dice. Um, there we go. Push the rest away. What does Tom love about dice? Oh my gosh, this is really deep. Tom's doing a lot of self-reflection right now. Tom Bombadil, my sweet cat, he's doing a lot of self-reflection, and it would actually benefit him greatly to probably interact with the dice. In body, as we know, because we've seen his beautiful full body form, he is at his prime. He is in the form that he's always wanted to be, which is a chubby kitty who gets all the kibble in the world. And he really believes he's putting his best foot forward, his best paws forward. So physically, he's obviously an immaculate specimen. We do see in Woe, there is an upside down crown. This is like the major arcana face of the suits die, which tells me that there is a big crown on top of Woe. He's experiencing incredible woe, and that is really deeply connected to his self-reflection. Having to think about yourself as a cat is just really stressful, and he would rather not do that. So maybe playing with the dice is a way for him to express what he's feeling. In material and autumn, we have the gathering bee and bad luck. Rude. He's not being fed enough, I think is what we're getting here. He waits and waits by his automatic feeder, and he begs me constantly. But the gathering bee is really failing him. And I guess I'm the gathering bee here. I'm doing such a terrible job at bringing things to him. That makes me feel terrible, that I'm not feeding him so much that he's even heavier, and the vet's more mad at me for his body weight. In Wheel, he does have the sun. He's experiencing a lot of joy in playing with the dice. He likes slapping them around. It just is nice. They're little clicky clacks, and he would really like to put it in his mouth and run away with it. But I am not going to let him do that. So once again, the gathering bee, who is me, is just bad luck. Just not helping. In spirit, I see the rising moon. The rising moon is definitely suggesting to me that he is ready to be hunting. It really fulfills his prey drive. He sees little clicky clacks, he knocks them around, they go, and he can go chase them. It's a big favorite of his, and he's really enjoying doing that. So I, as a kind father, a kind papa, should allow him to do so. Maybe. I see the sun and the flower on the influences die, which usually means there is an imbalanced relationship between two people, one of which is the flower, which would be Tom in this case, and one of which is the sun, which is me, who's supposed to provide for him. He would really like to be provided with dice to play with. And way over here, off in winter, is the journey, or the chariot, or the carriage, or whatever I've actually called the face, but it's the chariot in tarot. He feels like overall there's been a lovely completed journey in his life, and it could be really nicely capstoned by a good hunt of small dice. So the question of what he loves about this and how I can keep him away is pretty clear. He wants to hunt and chase and play with the dice and put them in his mouth and probably eat one and then choke and die. So I, as the gathering bee and the sun who should be doing my job, I'm supposed to be feeding him. If I just gave him more food, he would just lay in bed and be chill. But because I don't feed him more, he's gonna come and screw with my things. This is actually so incredibly real for him. He will get on my nightstand and start chewing on my phone and then look at me. And he's like, you always get mad when I do this. So if I do this, will you feed me? So I think that the dice are very similar. He would like to just come screw with the dice until I go feed him more. So there you go. That's the reading for Tom Bombadil. Why does he love the dice? And it's because He's lovingly fat, but he's not lovingly fat enough. And he would like to be more successful. And to be successful, he needs kibble, which I guess is reasonable. Like, I also need kibble, you know. I haven't eaten anything today, and I don't think he cares or respects me on that one, and I find that rude. What a cat, what a cat. I'm gonna just turn the camera a little bit. There we go. So that was our Tom Bombadil reading. You know, sometimes your cat needs an oracle dice reading, and I don't know why we don't just do that more often. Who doesn't love a sweet kitty cat man? Does anyone else have a reading they might like? Apocalypse Girl, I don't think I've read for you today. And Fear and Ramen, I definitely haven't either. So if either of you have a question for the dice or the Hot Housewives Tarot or the Misery Tarot or some combination, I would be happy to do it. I do enjoy doing like a tarot reading with dice over it. That's always really fun. I kind of just like lay out a card in each quarter and then roll dice, and they kind of interact in a nice way. Oh my god, I hope you have a really nice meal after this. Oh, I'm fine. I do need to go to the grocery store and get actual groceries. So maybe after this, that's what I'll do before I do my other things yet today. I have updates to do. The Misery Tarot needs an update. I didn't do one last Monday, and I feel bad about that. But yeah, oh, big yawn. Sorry. I also woke up really weirdly at like 7:30 today, and I was like, no, my alarm is for 9. I work for myself. I don't have to get up until 9, thank you. But once I'm awake, it's over. So I could use a nap, and I could use a nice meal. If no one gives me a dice question here, I'm gonna grab random dice and just keep reading for random things. I think up next would be like a dice reading for like this matte top coat for my nails. After the live stream, how do you recharge? Um, to be honest, I am a person who either gets my sleep or I'm just sleepy for that day. I don't recharge easily. I don't drink coffee. I don't generally drink caffeine. I don't do energy drinks. That just ruins my stomach so easily. So I don't think I do a recharge until I get to sleep. Otherwise, I just kind of hang out and hopefully recoup some gumption. Because I'll be doing another 2-hour live stream tonight from 4 to 6 my time. So hopefully when I have lunch, it's a good recharge for me. Because otherwise I have a lot of work to do. I've got projects to update. I've got social media posts to send out. I was going to do an update on the 2nd edition Oracle Dice project again, just to remind people that they can update their set here, or they can get a second set. Yeah, so I've got a lot of work I'm supposed to be doing. It turns out when you run a crowdfunding project, there's actually a lot of labor you're supposed to do. And I was actually planning out the live stream for us, next week. I was going to do a group live stream with a bunch of other people who are on Tarotopia, and we were all going to just hang out and talk about divination and also talk about our projects. So we'll all be mirroring that to our campaign pages. That could be really cool. Apocalypse Girl, maybe just a general reading. Yeah, let's do one. Again, I'm playing the random dice game here. So let's see what you got. Wow, that was a very tight reading. Nothing went anywhere. We're starting in the core. Did you already get iron? What did I do? I didn't stop streaming. Why is the chat gone? What happened here? Oh no. I closed the chat. What have I done? Docs. bring me back to my chat, please. There we go. Ha 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 ha. I was gonna ask, didn't you get iron before? I feel like you did, but it's tied to the head wound. It looks like there's an important need for you to be protective and defensive because there's someone trying to like do a very particular targeted pain here. Hmm. Hmm. Um, what you're doing into the world is very organized. There's definitely a home. Oh, loyalties die. I can't wait to have the real dice that actually have the ink and the symbols. It's just a little handwriting is confusing. Um, you kind of got yourself and your home in order, or you're actively doing that. You're putting your stuff together so that your home is safe. Which home can mean a lot of things, but I usually think about it as like literally a space you live in and the people you share it with. I see disability and material. It looks like there's kind of an ignorance of disability here. You might just kind of be shrugged off in some way that's really frustrating. People aren't maybe being respectful of your limitations in some ways. Emotionally, you're feeling like pretty isolated from other people. Physically, your stuff is getting in order, but it looks like other people just are not helping with that. The sense of isolation is not in the worst way. It's not like, wow, this is so isolating, I feel so lonely and abandoned, but there's definitely something here that's not working out super right. Why is someone targeting you? What limitation do you feel exists in you attempting to put your home in order that other people are gonna like poke you for? I think that's something very clear. I mean, the core is telling you already, like, be ready to be defensive about that, and not necessarily in a reactive yelling way, but like in a, hey, there are some things I can do right now. There's some things I can't do right now, and you need to be patient, because otherwise it becomes really lonely. I think it wouldn't hurt for you to ask for assistance and putting the home in order as well. Could I maybe do a combo reading with the Hot Housewives and dice? Maybe a general reading around my family. I would love to do that. Let's do that thing. Apocalypse Girl, that's downright eerie. You know, not to toot my own horn, but I think I'm pretty good at the whole reading thing. I think that I get answers. It's when people look at me confused at the end of a reading and they're like, I'm not really sure how that fits my situation. Where I'm like, are you sure? Who are you? Maybe this wasn't for you. Maybe it was for the person that you're thinking about right now. Like, what do you mean? Maybe that's narcissistic of me. I've gotten to this point where I just always expect people to be like, oh, exactly. I'll think about that. Oh no, is my egocentrism showing? Okay. General reading around your family. Let's see. One of baseball, daytime TV, nine of futures, seven of bombs. We got a lot of reverses here. Random dice. All right. Pure goodness in reverse. Something is being, yeah, well, we have the knot. Duh. I was about to say something's being complicated that should have been really simple and nice. It was like, nope. Robanks, I can answer that question so easy. I'm an intuitive reader. I look at the thing and I'm like, I'm going to make a little story about it right now. So, like, the one of baseball is pure goodness. In reverse, I'm just like, okay, what's like the screwed up version of something just being purely good? And that's why I have like these cheat sheet words basically on these cards where I'm like, it's pure goodness. And I'm just like, oh, well, something's getting complicated. It should have been nice and good, and it's becoming a problem. And then I see the knot, and I'm like, the knot is the simplest thing to be like, it's one rope, and then you just like rotate it a bunch, and now it's screwed up. That's simple things being made difficult. And that's why I really vibe with the Oracle dice, because that's, I think pretty simply, I guess, where I'm just like, yep, that's a shape, and that shape reminds me that you made a simple thing hard. That's why cheat sheet cards are actually so easy to do for the dice, because I think about them pretty straightforwardly. Writing this much about a single face is probably not even necessary. I can just be like, brick, strong foundation, takes time, do it right. Like, that's all the info you really need. And then the nuance comes from how those things interact. So something was pure and good. Why is it not being allowed to just be pure goodness? And it's because something was taken that was really simple and made really complicated. Because this is in your mind, and this is where the layers really help with readings, where I'm like, okay, pure goodness. It's been subverted. Why is it not just being pure and good? Oh, what's next to it? It's being complicated for some reason. Why is it being complicated? Well, where is it at in the reading spread? This is the mind. So you're overthinking it, is the simple answer. So B&W, you're reading around your family. There's something that's really pure and nice and good, but you really overcomplicate it by overthinking it. That's how I get to my understanding of what this now means. I just like look at the simple thing. It's a couple words. Then I look at the next thing. It's a couple words, and I plug them together. Now, what does that mean? Um, I am not a book learner when it comes to divination. When I read tarot, I know I write the guidebooks. I know I do. I never look at my guidebooks again, generally. Um, I try to spell it out really well for people who are book learners, but I will read a tarot deck that I literally wrote the guidebook for a year later and read a card so differently than it was, because in that moment, that's what it felt like. Um, I'm maybe one of the worst people to be a teacher here on that, but I'm just like, my strategy is so simple. And that's why I made the dice the way I did. Simple symbol. And then they land next to each other. I'm like, how do those simple symbols talk to each other? And then what's the grid they're in? I feel like so much of my work is already done for me between the dice and the grid that I then just have to talk a lot. So in body, how you're affecting the world, we have daytime TV. Daytime TV is the stand-in for the sun in the major arcana of the Hot Housewives Tarot. There's goodness here. Like, things are going well. There's joy, happiness. Things are great. I am seeing an explosion on the redacted die. Explosion, maybe this one's a little more nuanced, but the redacted die, all of its topics are about how those things are hidden or lost. And the explosion is specifically about how a lot of things got lost from the explosion. Daytime TV was about joy and maybe enjoying the television a little much and being like, that's bringing me a bunch of goodness. That paired with the explosion is suggesting to me, like, how are these things lost by the explosion die? Daytime TV. Um, just general good vibes are happening in your family where a lot of things get brushed over. There was stuff that has gone wrong in the past, and that has been largely swept under the rug. It doesn't get talked about anymore because it doesn't fit into daytime TV, right? Um, these things don't work well together. Things got lost, but don't worry. There's just turn on the TV and watch your favorite sitcom. It's fine. Things are good. That's where you're at. It feels like you and maybe members of your family are really brushing things aside to just enjoy the goodness of things. And that means that like problems are being ignored and hard feelings are not being addressed. Over here in autumn, I see two, which is pretty good. It means that like things are being worked towards. I see inevitable on Sin's die, which means that some things are coming to an inevitable close. Um, because it's literally on the card, I'm going to say the card is probably here. And then over here we have the longing to basically like hide. You don't want to be seen. You want to be understood in one way but not others. Because this is autumn and material, it's about how other people are doing these things typically. So it looks like you're either hiding from them or they're putting on their masks to avoid maybe the problems we were just addressing there. The card here is the Seven of Bombs. This is unsalvageable. It is in reverse. When something's unsalvageable, it usually means like you just need to throw away the whole thing and start over. In reverse, the original goal of this card is like something's unsalvageable, but like you can still get out. In reverse, it's like it's unsalvageable, but you're still there. It tells me that like there is an inevitability of recognizing the parts of this that aren't working. Um, but over here, I am seeing like literal steps that are moving away from it. Um, it doesn't mean like throw away your whole family and get a new one. It does mean like the situation that's been created of ignoring the difficult problems is an unsalvageable one. It will never work, and it is inevitably going to come to an end on its own. So I wouldn't worry too much about this situation because it's already being moved from. It just hasn't gone away yet. Um, Here I do see the edge of tomorrow. It's the nine of future in reverse in your spirit or your heart, how you're feeling about things. Edge of tomorrow is like there's promises of things still coming. In reverse, it's suggesting like it's promises of things that aren't going to be able to come or be approached. The die that we have here is the relations die, and this is the like do the autofocus. Thank you. This is like two people who are separate. I have a different face where they are together, so they could be together, or they can be separate. You have the separate one here. It's suggesting to me that like there might be a little distance driven between members of your family and you in realization of like what things you didn't get to do today that should have been the promise of what tomorrow could have been because of the situation that's been put forward. Um, Things aren't being recognized and they're being brought like glossed over when they finally are no longer hidden and they're being brought to the front. It looks like it's definitely going to cause a little bit of a rift for a while. I will say this die had the opportunity to put rejection out there and it didn't. So this isn't you and your family splitting up forever and never talking again, but it is there will be some distance between you when you finally own up to what you did and what they did, and that's just not an easy thing. But the fact that there was pure goodness to start with is telling me like there's real goodness available here in your family. This isn't something that needs to be walked away from or left. You just maybe have to be a little bit patient with dealing with the aftermath of recognizing things that have gone unsaid for too long. And it may take a little bit of time, but I see it working. I hope that was actually about your family in some way and helpful and robbing. I hope that helped you understand a little bit of like my reading approach. And I would say that's why I have such an easy time doing readings kind of like nonstop, because it's just like pattern recognition and like storytelling. And storytelling is something that I would say is like a really good skill of mine, because that is generally what I'm always trying to do with everything I make. And that's like my focus as an artist, is just storytelling over and over and over. So I know that doesn't work for everyone. I got a reading from a fan, actually. Sorry, I need water. Save me from myself. Oh. I got a reading from a fan not too long ago at a convention, and they were very excited to do it, but they had to stop for every card and then read like a long book definition. And by the time we got anywhere into the reading, I had no idea what it was about anymore. Like every time that we got to the next card, they were like, it kind of means, and they'd open the book and they would just read word for word everything from the book out loud. And then they wouldn't explain what that meant or like how it fit in that position or how it related to other cards. So it was just sitting through like 10 cards being read out loud from books. And I was like, I don't think that I've gained anything from that. But I looked at it and just gave myself a reading in my head of what those cards mean to me, because it was like a fairly standard tarot. And that just really sat with me as like maybe an emboldening thing for me, of like reading from the book is not for me. learning from the book is fine. But yeah, it was just one of those things where it was like, you're new to reading, and that's fine. Like I was never like, oh, this is terrible, stop, I want to leave. I just was like, that's difficult. That's really difficult to be given textbook answers to things. So I don't know. I guess I lean my way for doing readings because it's very loose and interpretive and focused on trying to understand things through the lenses that I'm given. If someone asks a question that's like the top lens, and it's basically like the grid over the grid is like everything I see in here, I should think about the question they asked. And then when I'm answering it, I should think about what the die says, and then what the dice next to it says to it. And then also, now I can look at the grid. And if I'm feeling a little disconnected from it still, then I might use even more parts of the grid. I think a lot of times when I'm doing readings, people might notice I don't actually use the within or the woe up here or the wheel that's down here or the without over here very often. But then there's times where I'm like, oh, this die is here and it kind of means this. And I was like, well, what's more context I have? And I was like, oh, it's within. It's actually entirely something that you are thinking about, and it might be something that other people don't even notice. So I feel like I lean on the crutches of the system that I've laid out in front of me more and more the less certain I am what the thing means or how it connects to other things. I hope that's like generally helpful information about your question. Um, I wouldn't say like practice doesn't come into it because practice is obviously a big part of it. One of the things I did a lot for practice is I have a Toth deck, which is somewhere. Oh no. Do I not know where it is? How? That's really bizarre. I don't know where that is. My most read deck ever was a Toth Tarot. That was the large art edition, and I cut off all of the frame and text and then rounded the corners, so it's just art. And I read that in bars for people in Chicago for drinks like all the time. Um, it was like every Monday I would meet with okay, lower about 7. When I lived in Chicago, I worked at a haunted house for 2 seasons, and when we were off season, so pretty much anytime it wasn't like October or the end of like September, we would meet every Monday at a bar. And I would bring my tarot deck and I would do readings for them and they would buy me drinks, but also do readings for people just in the bar and they'd buy me drinks. And cutting off everything from the cards meant that I interpreted the cards so loosely. There were times that I misinterpreted what card it was because I'd mix up like the knight and the like prince or the prince. I would just mix things up all the time. Like, oh, is this the king or is this the knight? I don't know. This one is on a chariot. It got a little confusing. I would mix up the 6 and 9 of pentacles, I think, because the art was a little similar. And there were so many times that I would draw the 7 or 9, either of those, the 6, 7, or 9 of wands or rods, and I would forget what they meant. And it didn't matter because I would just tell a story around them anyways. And so much of that practice helped me, number one, learn the cards better because I would read them so often that eventually I did figure out what they meant. But the other part to that is that I got so used to being able to tell a through line narrative from what I was looking at that I was just confident in what I was saying. I think that there exists a space there where like you can be a confident bullshitter and that's not helpful. It helps that I made the dice and I know what they're supposed to mean, but yeah, maybe you don't do quite what I was doing when I was reading in bars where I just made up what some cards meant. But a lot of the times it really connected to what people were learning from the reading. And they'd be like, oh, no, that fully fits. And then later I'd be like, that one card I read completely backwards. but it still fit for them and it helped them think about what they were dealing with and working through. So was it the worst thing in the world I ever did? No, but it did make me go like, okay, in the future I need to remember that this one means balance, not victory. The other one meant victory. Um, yeah, I definitely learned a lot through immersion. And I hope that that's something that people can just kind of do. You know, if you are a person who is number one of age to go to a bar, and you're a person who is cool with drinking, which is to say, like, don't go there if it's not your thing. Don't go to bars if you don't like it as a place to be. Don't go there if, for example, you have an addiction to alcohol. Please don't do that and say it's because I told you to go there. But if you are confident and kind of an outgoing-ish person, that's a really good way to go to learn this stuff, and also get free drinks. And the thing I've experienced with bars is that like bars don't seem to mind it. I feel like if I went to like a restaurant and I just like posted up and I was like, you got to buy me a meal and then I'll read your cards, they probably wouldn't like that very much. But typically, like, depending on the vibe of the bar you go to, they can be pretty chill with that. And also the bartender might want a reading. Probably not for a free drink, but a reading anyways, because they don't get appreciated enough. So I highly suggest reading tarot at bars because it's a lot of fun. Um, and you can expose people to tarot in a way that they had never done before. So, anywho, we have about 20 minutes. I would be happy to answer any other questions if people have them about the oracle dice, which are what this is actually about, and I should stop removing them from the stream. I took off my bracelet and made like a perfect circle around the core. Is that getting people to pledge for dice? Probably not, but it is something I'm apparently doing. If anyone has a question for either of the tarot decks or oracle dice, I'm happy to do one more. I'm definitely kind of killing my voice doing all these live streams, so I'm probably going to need to make myself some like nice tea with some honey or something. That could be helpful. You know, I've been thinking lately about doing like YouTube videos or live streams where I'm just like reading things, because people always tell me they really like my voice and they feel like it's something they could really just listen to for a long time. And I'm like, after doing all these live streams lately where I just am talking the whole time, and like even just this weekend on Saturday I had a like 2.5 hour interview with Lisa Pepez, who the video will be on her channel for everyone to see on the 10th. But it's like all I'm doing is just talking so much. Why do I do this? Thornweaver, that's so real. Every time that I set up to do a reading stream, my cat keeps coming to hang out. Yeah, you just gotta shove that cat away. you have the first edition mat, like the actual mat, like this guy here. That was a neoprene mat. Is this the one you mean, or do you mean the previous run that had this two-sided cloth? Because that was actually the second edition. I'm not sure which one you mean. I had a lot of people just tell me like I had the original run, and then I find out they meant the second edition, because most people don't realize that the second edition was the second edition. Rubbings, I think that's a great idea. The fuzzy cloth one, yeah, that's the second edition, Matt. No, you're good. It's just really funny because everyone keeps being like, "Oh, I have the first run," and I'm like, "Do you do you have the first run or do you have the second run?" Because there were a lot fewer people who got the first run, so most people don't realize there was a first edition to the dice prior to the previous run. All right, how's our summer? What should we be doing? Number one, we should be doing some personal growth. We should be working on ourselves. And it's connected to materials, so it's telling me that we should really be focusing on ourselves in the context of other people. This might mean working on our personal lives by working on our relationships with other people, focusing a little bit on what more we can do for others. Maybe how we can be supportive of people, how we can develop our better relationships with other people in ways not just to make them like us, but also to like put in the labor that we're supposed to in our relationships. Um, in our mind, we're focused on togetherness, which really connects with what I just said. You're upside down. Rebuild. It looks like maybe there's some disrepair that has come about in some of our relationships with other people. We've really let some things fall apart a little bit. We haven't been putting forth effort to maintain friendships. And the really great thing that we can do about that is that we can always fix it. We can always adjust it. I think that some people are really, really like put off by that idea of like, why do I have to put in all the work? But it's nice. You can put in work to remind yourself why other people matter to you and show it through your actions. So, actions that we can take. I see the knot. We also have explosion and the spider. Oh. Oh, this is a through line. Okay. One of the things that happens with the dice sometimes is they form shapes. When they line up like this, we can see like an actual progression of things and how they've worked. So while we are thinking about people and how we can rebuild and make things work, this is a through line because there was an explosion. The explosion phase is specifically about like what gets lost in the explosion. Maybe there was a big shift in our relationships with another person, and we need to really be considerate of not just how we let things fall into disrepair by not taking care of them, but maybe ways that we've been a little difficult or frustrating or even explosive at times, and what things kind of got lost on the way of that. With the spider here, the spider focuses on, of course, weaving and storytelling. I can't help but think about Anansi a little bit. Uh, uh, I would say that it's worth understanding the larger narrative of your relationship with a person to understand like what all there was before and how much has been changed or maybe lost now because of how it's been treated. There was a simple thing here. Things were clean and good, but they become really complex. The nice thing about a knot, which is what we have over here, is that knots can be undone and returned to a single rope. We have this through line, and it's really tangled, but we can't just untangle it. Of course, it just requires labor. So, yeah, heading into summer, literally in the summer quarter here, our big focus should be on how we untangle the complications that have come about or that we may have made. Over here in material, we have nothing kind of on its own, but personal is reaching there, and we also have the sun and moon. We have the sun and moon next to deepest night in spirit, and we also have the empty sun over here. Easy things to take away here is like when you are late at night laying in bed thinking about things, what are you thinking about? What things do you think you wish you'd done differently? And is it going to be possible for you to make that change now? Is this labor you can put forth to save a friendship or relationship? Is this something that it's worth apologizing for, even though maybe you didn't do anything wrong, or maybe you weren't the only one who did something wrong? Is this the time for you to step forward and make a change? Or is this the time to try something new? Making new relationships and new people is always an option, but it doesn't necessarily give you back what you've lost. The empty sun is very much like a bare bones space when we're utterly and completely alone. I would say that there's a little bit of a fear there. This is one of those things where when I'm reading and I'm looking for connective tissue between things, like this is saying, is this the right time to ponder what you should be fixing? And that's how those two are speaking together. And then I see the empty sun over here, which is kind of like this bare bones empty space. And I'm like, how do these things connect? This is in spirit, so I'm looking at it through the lens of how you feel. And a very common thing with feelings is the big emotions, right? Love, anger, fear. And just on the narrative thread we have so far, it's about reconnecting to things that we've lost. So when I see the empty sun kind of on its own, I'm going to connect it with the tissue of the narrative we've made, and also through the lens of understanding that this is about feeling. And I'm going to interpret it as fear, even though there's nothing here, none of the dice faces, nothing explicitly says the word fear. Um, it doesn't make sense to me that it's in anger. It doesn't make sense to me that it's in love. The thing that you would feel about having something become empty when you used to have something would be fear. And so I think that there's just a fear there. There's a worry and a concern about what happens when you don't put back together the relationship that you've lost. And I don't know. Generally, what I'm seeing here is like there's a lot of focus on it, so it's probably not something that wants to be lost. That's another like grand interpretation. After I've looked at everything and I see the general themes we have going here, everything's about this connection and how we want it back, likely. So it feels like that's just not something probably worth losing. The dice don't give me stories about things about you that aren't important. So this is worth fighting for, and I think that it's worth trying to make a fix. I will say that the sun and moon here does suggest that some things have their time and place, and some things don't have their time and place right now. So it's possible that this just isn't the time for it, but still worth trying. Rekindle and fix your relationships. Oracle dice. That's what we need to do for the summer. Put in the effort. Be there for people. It's usually worth it on its own, even if you don't fix things that went wrong. Being there for other people is usually like fulfilling, just on its own, reminding you that you have these lovely connections to people, that we're not alone, that the systems and societies we've set up are like artificial, and they do serve a lot of really great purposes, but sometimes you just need to be reminded we're just people. We're just humans. We're just looking for connection, friendship, love, romance, all that goodness. Well, my friends, I don't think that we have any more readings for today. If anyone has any last questions, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, we might wrap up just a little early today, at least for the morning stream. Who knows? Maybe the evening stream from 4 to 6 will be so busy that I don't know what to do. And then I will have to just cry as I leave at 6 and there's 100 unread readings. Let's not actually do that. Don't make me cry on my live streams. Not yet. That can be like a mid-season experience. When would that be? You can make me cry on the 16th. People can ask me for readings that are just heartbreaking on the 16th, because then I can cry and it'll be a big emotional moment. There'll be YouTube clips being like, this YouTube tarot reader cries on stream. You'll love the message. Can you imagine? Also, I need to make a clip out of the reading I did about time. It was around the 50-minute mark. I'll go look for it and see if I can find it, because it was poetic. I liked it too. Thanks for asking me weird questions like, what is time? Because then I'll do an actual reading for it and it'll be cool. Also, question. I was thinking about adjusting the stream layout to make the stream mat area bigger. I would just make a second scene that like makes it larger so that while I'm doing the reading, it's a lot bigger, and then you don't even have to look at all my empty, messy office. You could instead see the dice better. Would that be cool? Should I do that before tonight's stream? Then I could have like 2 different scenes I swap between so people can see it. I think that'd be cool. Also, oh my gosh, this is the most important question, and I'm not going to answer it. You have to. What am I going to eat for lunch? What genre of food should I have for lunch? You all have to tell me right now, and then I'll eat it. Unless you pick really bad food choices, then I won't. Because I deserve good food. Don't tell me to eat rocks. or Skittles. I don't know why Skittles remind me of rocks, but they do. Does that mean we get 2 scenes of Tom? Pasta, pizza, Thai. Okay. I don't hate any of those. I'm into that. Chicken. Belgian fries. Belgian fries. Grilled cheese. Ooh, I could go to the store and get stuff for good grilled cheese. Make like a melt sandwich. I like those. Those are good. I'm noticing no one picked my favorite kind of food. That's okay. I forgive you. I forgive you. I'm so partial to like Tex-Mex and actual Mexican, but I'll be honest, it's Tex-Mex. That's my favorite. I get me some really nice nachos or burrito or quesadilla with chips and queso. It's so Tex-Mexy. I like real Mexican food too, but I really grew up on Tex-Mex and I just love it so much. But grilled cheese, I'm kind of feeling that. Chicken would be fine. Sushi's just a little expansive. The only cheap sushi I have near me is like grocery store sushi, and I'm very rarely willing to do that. Pizza I like a lot. I eat a lot of frozen pizzas. It's another food that I just keep coming back to. Pasta's interesting. I don't think I have any good pasta places near me. I would have to just go to the store and buy pasta stuff, which could be fine if I got a fun meat for it. And I guess someone said chicken. I could just go get some chicken and some white sauce or vodka sauce. Grilled cheese and soup is always a perfect, easy comfort food. You are correct. I would never deny that. That is just deeply true. Don't subject yourself to grocery store sushi. Yeah, I try not to. It's pretty gross. Hmm. I keep trying to find excuses to walk to like a nearby restaurant and eat, but I think I just need to go to the grocery store. I haven't had any food in the house for like days. Um, and that's not good. I should go get a real food. Okay, I'll go to the store. Then when I get home, I do have updates and emails to send out, social media posts to make. There's always that. Okay. All right, friends. We got just 3 minutes left. I'm going to dip early and go get myself some food. Thanks for the lovely suggestions. And yeah, I'll make the scene change thing so we can have a new scene that is like this one, but this window is smaller, and then that window, that window right there is larger. This is this is going really well. So that when I'm doing the reading, I can click it and it will like zoom on this camera. I think that'll be great, and everyone will love it. All right. Have a lovely day, y'all. I'll see some of you in 4 hours for people who show up for the evening stream. Maybe I'll even WD-40 my chair so it stops squeaking when I move. All right. Ta-ta for now, friends.